Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Happy Me Career Coaching Initiatives episode number 18. Remember the last episode I talked about a mysterious lady? Here we have Sharon. Hi, Sharon. Thanks for coming here.
Hi, Mavis. Thanks for inviting me.
You're most welcome. Now, before we begin, please drop us a thumbs up in our Facebook page and hit the subscribe button of Happy Me Career YouTube channel, please. We will be taking questions along the way. So there won't be a separate Q&A at the end of the session. So please feel free to post your questions in a comment. Okay, now today we are going to listen to something new. For those who have been following us, you come to realize that we have been sharing tips and knowledge from coaches, HR professionals. They shared with us a lot of golden nuggets as with us, coaching as a profession. Now, how it has helped many people gain breakthroughs from their standpoint, and how they see a lot of coaches and individuals, gain the so-called aha moments, what we call as the breakthroughs, and helping them to propel forward with confidence and action plans. Now, today, let's hear from a real life story of Sharon Tan. Sharon is actually my Toastmaster friend, and I got to know that she's pursuing her effective coaching pathways learning actually in Toastmaster. And that's when we get a lot of conversations, on how she has come by talking about coaching as well. So she has been an avid lifelong learner and educator herself. And she was first introduced to life coaching when she was still in her university. It was a very transformative experience that she shared with me actually, and that sets a foundation for her career. So she wants people to know more about coaching and how it can help them both in life and at work. And that's why we have Sharon here with us. Thank you, Sharon, for accepting my invitation to come here on a live show with everybody. Now, Sharon, we want to hear more about yourself. So maybe you share about more about yourself and what is your current adventure you're on right now, Sharon, if you don't mind.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Currently, I'm taking a break from running. I've actually just completed a 320 kilometers walk around Singapore in 21 days. Yeah,
Good
and I think
job.
and I think partly that's quite interesting because I attribute it partly to the coaching that I've received and that helped me to achieve the goals. Yeah.
Nice. So now maybe Sharon, can you share a little bit more, as you mentioned, as I mentioned earlier in your introduction, you first been introduced to life coaching when you are in uni days. Maybe, Sharon, take a little bit more time, to walk us through what leads you to that first introduction actually.
I was first introduced to coaching when I was still in university. I remember at that time, I was feeling very lost. You know, when you are almost graduating, that moment when you are wondering what's next. What are you going to do with your life? What kind of job are you going to, do after you graduate? I remember feeling really lost at that point in time. So when a classmate of mine invited me to this coaching talk, I don't even know what was it, but at that time when you are feeling rather lost, you'll be very open to attending any events that sort of like say that, oh, you will learn something new about yourself at the end of the day, which is something that I welcome very much. So I attended the event and I felt it was very mind blowing for me. I quite like the experience because they explained a little bit about coaching, which at that time it was my first experience of like what coaching is all about. And then I was prompted, I was really interested to sign up for a program with them. And at the time, because I mean coaching program, there's a certain cost associated with it. So I reasoned with myself that since I'm not going for overseas exchange, I'll use that money to pay for a coaching program. And then I just went for it. Yeah.
Mm. So far, how do you think? Is it worth the money? Have you actually looked back from there on?
it was like I mentioned to you, it was a transformative experience. And how was it transformative in a way is that I learned a lot about myself. Self-awareness is something that we develop over time. It doesn't come naturally. And coaching is one way we can actually hone this ability of ours, especially in terms of reflection. And just now I also mentioned that I'm able to, like say complete 320 kilometers in 21 days. And how did I manage to reach that goal? Goal setting is also one of the the key, skills that I learned when I was being coached by a coach, by a life coach actually. So these are the different and also discipline. It was something that is, I mean, after you graduate, right? You these are not taught. You don't know what is consistency, you don't know what's discipline, and having coaching, right, helps you to re-evaluate. For example, every week my coach will sit down with me and then evaluate. Okay, so this is what you have accomplished so far. You are still, maybe 75% to your goal. How are you going to go about doing it? Are there any setbacks? Shall we look at how are you going to, um, find a way to overcome these setbacks so that you can continue on with your goal? So we learn about something like, there's no excuses in life. Every week, every day, there's something bound to happen. Are you going to proceed on with it? Or are you going to say that, oh, maybe today I have a headache, so I shall not continue with what I set out to do, and things like that. So these are the little things that I learned when I undergo this coaching program. Yes.
Mm. So when you say little things that you learn and how coaching has transformed your life, so throughout as you grow in your career, Sharon, how do you take this coaching into your professional development then?
Mm. Um, it's like I mentioned, these are the different like skills that I learned. One is about reflection, and I think reflection is something that is again not taught in school. I mean, besides like, oh, what have we done today, and things like that. um I I also, sorry, your question is what have I
How?
applied, right?
Correct. How have
Yeah,
you
so
applied
I
coaching?
said reflection is something that I felt that was very helpful for me in my career, especially sometimes, when we sort of like go through a day, especially like because I teach. So I'll use that as a reflection. I'll like reflect and say that, oh, what have I done today? How can I do better? And, you know, coach about, you can self-coach or you can be coached by others, but it's really the foundation is through questioning, is through questions. Like you ask yourself questions like, oh, how can I reach, I'm at point A now, how can I go to point B? What are steps I need to do to reach there? And yeah, so I think reflection is one. And of course, I mentioned it's about goal setting. Knowing how to set a goal and actually setting a goal and following through with the goal that you have set is very different. Yeah. And what I learned is like, sometimes, right, we can have many New Year resolutions, be it in life or at work, right? We say, oh, I want to, you know, complete this project, I want to do this, I want to do that. But most of the time, our New Year resolutions would just fall through by the end of March, maybe. And what I've also learned is about consistency and follow through with the goals. So one of the things, for example, both in career and at work, is that like what I mentioned, if something happened, are you going to drop it and say that, oh, today is a bad day? I'm not going to continue with what I set out to do. And then that's why I'm not doing it. So I'll set back by one day from my goal. So reflection, consistency, and discipline is also one of them. And also, I think coaching actually do foster relationships as well, both at work and in life. And why do I say that is because sometimes um, because coaching is about questions, and when you ask questions, right, it's naturally a way to foster relationships because people felt understood. Like you try to ask questions to understand people, right? Or people ask questions, right, because they want to understand where you're coming from. So in a way, right, when you apply coaching questionings, you apply some coaching techniques in there, you're actually creating this conversation, a very deep conversation with someone that is not just how are you today? How's the weather? Yeah, you actually know that you can, through questionings, you can get people from this all the way down to a certain level and get people to open up, to share their problems, to share their hopes, their dreams, their fears. And yeah, so that foster relationship both at work and in life is also one of the, like benefits, I'll say, uh, out of coaching. Yes.
Mm. So very good. And where all these points are actually very good points, because where you says that we have touched earlier on in our previous episodes about the safe environment to deep dive to find out where's your fear and discover more about yourself, right? Now, Sharon, hi Syed and Daryl, thanks for coming by. Actually, we have a question on the floor, Syed, from Syed actually. Syed is asking, how do you keep going when things don't go as planned, Sharon?
Thanks for asking. So the question is, how do I proceed on even if things don't go as planned? So
Yes.
maybe I just talk about my most recent experience because fresh in my memory, right? Is like because I set a target that I want to, finish my race in 21 days, and I set a target which is 320 kilometers. Now, to achieve 320 kilometers in 21 days, that's an average of 15 kilometers a day. I think around there, 15. So when you tell yourself, right, if you don't put in at least 15 kilometers a day, every day, you are not going to meet that goal. So definitely you can't ensure that every day is a happy day. Every day is a smooth sailing day. There are days when you just don't feel like even stepping out of the house. And that's very real. So I have days like that as well. And sometimes what is really helpful for me is having a partner, an accountability partner, where I can just say, hey, Mavis, I'm supposed to do this today, but I really don't feel like doing it. So sometimes I will ask very directly, can you do this with me right now? I really cannot move. So having an accountability partner, having someone to encourage you just at that moment when you most needed it is really helpful for me. Now, when I couldn't or refuse or really tired of running that day, right, I'll just ask someone for help and say, can you run with me just for that day? And the next day I'm fine because we have our ups and downs. Not every day is a rainy day. There are times where you can feel so encouraged that you can do all things on your own, but there are also times where you feel so down, so discouraged that you just don't want to do anything at all. Having a partner or having a friend, an accountability partner helps. Yeah.
Right, accountability. No, I really like that. That's why resolutions don't get done, because we don't have accountability, right? And that is very important. Now, Sharon, can you share with us all these years since your uni, and you've applied some coaching skills within your professional career development as well as your own personal life? What is the one thing that you have gained in your experience that coaching helped you so much? Can
What
you
have I
remember
gained
an
in my
experience? So can you remember an
that
experience or a memory, right, that actually coaching helped you so much to, unstuck or breakthroughs other than your first encounter?
Mm, that's a good question because I suddenly remember it's not so concrete like wow, I actually achieved something or I make $1 million or things like that. It's not so concrete as that. But it was that moment, that mind epiphany or like that
Hmm.
mind transform is when you realize that because sometimes we only thought that uh, this is who we are. there's so much we can do in life. Or for example, like this is who I am, this is what I'm capable of. But that moment when I undergo that coaching program is when I realized that uh, we have a lot of potential. We have a lot of potential, and that moment when I realized that you can actually be limitless in that sense. Like you don't have to limit yourself to, because sometimes when I say, oh, I want to write a book, for example, but uh, I don't have time. I'm tied down with by my family. I have like 101 things to tell me why I cannot write a book. But what coaching showed me is that actually you can, and these are all just maybe we to put it nicely, we don't say it's excuses, but they are just like little obstacles in your way that you will find a way to overcome. So what I realized at the point that was transformative in that sense is not because I achieved concrete things like making $1 million out of coaching or things like that, but because I realized that there is so much more to us than we believe. That we have the assumption that, oh, I can only do this much with my ability, and that expanded my mindset. I believe that that's why I have a sort of like a growth mindset. I always think that if I think of myself as being having a potential that is limitless, then anything that I do, right, I'll say that, hey, you know what, if I don't know, I can learn. If I not sure, I can ask. Not because I'm just born with it, or because I just like that. I'm just within the box that I put myself in. Yeah.
I see. Okay, great. Sharon, remember earlier before we start this live show, right? I did
Mm.
actually ask you about, and it's very true of what you have shared, how your memory and you remember a memorable experience of how it brought you through,
Mm.
right? So now maybe I can ask you, what do you think and what are your thoughts, that it used to be or is currently is many people are thinking that coaching is actually a good to have kind of mindset,
Oh.
or coaching is something that is very expensive commodity and they deter away because the cost is so high, right? So now, Sharon, been through this, and you know how it has actually since then, your uni, that coaching has benefited you so much. Now, what do you think? Is it still a good to have, or is it actually something that people can use it on a consistent basis? What's your
Mm.
thoughts?
Uh, Yeah, I find this question very interesting. That's why just now before this live show, we were actually also talking about this already. And it's that it sometimes, it depends on the individual. If I imagine myself, right, to only be this small, right, I'll say that, hey, coaching doesn't, I don't need coaching. I'm very happy with my life. I'm very contented. I don't need to achieve anything more. And that's, for this group of people, probably they'll think that, hey, you know what, I don't need to spend so much money just to continue. I'm already very happy with where I am. So coaching actually is um, very useful for people, right, who have this drive, who believe that they are more than who they think they are. They believe that they can achieve something even more. Now, when you are at this point, right, no matter no much, you can read like 100 self-help books. Okay, you can have like go through maybe 100 LinkedIn courses or Coursera. You can attend courses and anything like that. But you know what? Perhaps you could have spent a little with all those like courses that you attend and all that. But what coaching does is it stretches you so much more. And if you really see this, I can't even put it in within my screen, my hands. So it's so much bigger. And if you see this as very attractive and appealing to you, that you want to see yourself being stretched so much to be able to achieve so much more, now then coaching is a must-have for you, because there is no way you are able to achieve so much, right, with just self-help books, with just attending LinkedIn courses, Coursera, and so on and so forth. These, I'm not saying that these are not helpful. They are, but they only help you with a certain way, expand a little bit. But coaching is really because of the process. Now, coaching is a process, right? Getting a person from point A to point B. And this process, why I say it can help a person expand so much more, is because of the process that coaches use to help you to stretch further, which you wouldn't be able to stretch on your own. That's why accountability partner, sometimes your coach is your accountability partner. Now, if you don't have anyone to stretch you, to nag at you, for example, sometimes you will still be in your comfort zone and say that maybe tomorrow or maybe next month then I'll do it. But if you have someone breathing down your neck, or maybe not exactly breathing down because coaches are nice people, but you know that someone is actually there, you know, and that you are accountable to, that would drive you further. Now, we are not an island, right? Sometimes, yeah, we can achieve a lot of things on our own, but a coach with the training that they have undergone, with the process that they are, they are being taught and driven, right, will help the person to expand the potential to be able to achieve so much more. So back to your question is it a must have or a good to have? Really depends on the individual. It depends on the bosses, whether do they want to only see their employees like this, or do they think that their employees with this so much potential can contribute more to the company. That depends on, I mean, the question is again back to the individuals. What do you want?
I really like what you have said. What do you want, right? Ultimately. So now,
Yes.
being said that, Sharon, can you share with us? I'm pretty sure, with you having experience coaching, but your peers may not have. Around you,
Mm.
how many do you think have experienced coaching before, or how many of them actually have, not haven't even experienced coaching?
I would say that the number of knowing what coaching is all about and able to articulate in a few sentences, right? The population is very little, very few. Of course, I have friends who have gone through coaching because I sort of like introduced to them. I found that, hey, this is useful. Do you want to join? And then they really joined me in this journey. But other than that, there are also many other friends who will say that, you know what, I'm satisfied. I don't need to pay so much for a course like that or a program like this. I'm just fine with status quo. And um, I think to answer your question, why people may not, really know much about coaching is because they do not know how it works, first of all, and they may have, like wrong misconception about what coaching can do. Sometimes coaching, they think that, oh, is it counseling? Are you counseling me? Or sometimes coaching can also be mixed with mentoring. Now there are like distinct, there are three different um, distinctions. Like there are three different concepts, three different processes, and people don't actually know. So they'll think that coaching is a bit of counseling. They'll think that maybe coaching is a bit of mentoring, and people don't really know what coaching is all about. They don't really know what coaching is able to help and to transform a person. Now, mostly coaching is a very transformative event. Yes.
I see. So, Sharon, for yourself, Sahid was asking, can you share ideas on making group coaching more effective? Do you experience group coaching before?
Yes. Uh, because okay, on two instances. One is when I was being coached, so as a coachee, and one is because I'm very interested to learn more about coaching, so I actually also took a coach training program. So let me share on the first, as a individual going through group coaching, right? That's where we make use of the dynamics of the
Mm.
different coaches, that means peers. That means sometimes coaching requires sharing, open sharing of maybe your hopes, your dreams, your fears, positive, negative. And one person, right, may be, feeling shy, And that's where you can make use of the group dynamics. Is if one person more gung ho would want to share more, right? That would open up, and make the space. That would have enlarged the space for more conversations, more coaching conversations. And then you start seeing people, opening up. Some people even tearing, and then they are very impact. I mean, tearing not in a bad way, like tearing in a very, I felt that wow, it does benefit so much that I'm very touched, and therefore I teared. So we have people who, with group dynamics, right? It's easy to bring up that whole, atmosphere and get people to also transform them to another place, I would say. Yes.
Mm.
And then of course the other part is when I was undergoing coach training. I mean, I'm not a professional coach, but I do see the benefit of learning how to be a coach, because all these skill sets, I really do value them. That's why I undergo this training. Is also when they teach us how to like facilitate. That is more of facilitation skills, I believe. Yeah, and again, group dynamics. So I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, I guess Said would have gotten his answer. Said, does it make sense to you? Maybe share with us if it makes sense to you in the comment box. Now, before that, Sharon, would you mind I did dive a little bit with you? Because when we talk about, people having misconception, especially the peers around yourself, right?
Mm,
And this is something that Happy Me Career, our movement is trying to educate the masses on the right coaching mindsets, actually. Now, what is okay? So you've mentioned counseling, or is it a counseling thing, or is it a teaching training thing? Kind of misconceptions. Am I right?
yes.
Okay. So, what are the
Maybe.
hello?
Back.
Sorry, it's technical issue. Sorry, guys. Okay, yes. Coming back to my conversation, right? Yeah, I was actually asking, sharing yourself, how in these misconceptions, this pool of misconceptions, and Happy Me Career Coaching Initiative is as a movement to educate the masses, and we want to actually really try to iron out. Do you
Mm,
think it's possible to iron out and educate the coaching mindsets in these masses then?
yeah. Why not? Because we can do it through demonstration. Yeah, like little mini coaching workshops, and people would feel and know the difference. But of course, if you were to ask me to explain it in a very simple, like a few sentences, what the differences are, right? I think it is very easy to differentiate. Like, first of all, um, you know, coaching is really, some people might think that, oh, is it because I have a problem? That's why I need to go undergo coaching. Well, that is
Mm,
not true. People don't go for coaching because they have a problem. It can be a simple, like, I'm happy, but I want to be more. Now, that is not a
mm,
problem, right? That is like an ambition. So, this is something that coaching can help. a person to achieve, not because we have a problem, that's why we go for coaching. Now, even in executive coaching or in organizations, right? If people say that, hey, you know what, I've nominated you to go undergo a coaching program, how should the person feel? Oh, is it because I have a problem? That's why you wanted me to go for coaching? Or you should feel very excited. Wow, this employer, my boss, is actually wanting to help me to develop further, to develop my leadership potential, for example. So it's really, first of all, changing how people's perception of coaching is something to be happy about, really. Now, when you are being nominated for a coaching program, or when you want to take up a coaching program, it's not because we have a problem, but because sometimes it can be a small problem, which is dissatisfaction, discontent. Like, okay, I don't like the way I am right now. Like some people say, I want to keep fit, right? You get coaches, right? You get fitness coach, and that's exactly what they do as well. They encourage you, they like they push you to become who you never thought you would truly be, and they that's where like what I said, it's not about having a problem, but really about it can be a discontent or dissatisfaction with the status quo, and you want to enhance it, you want to develop your potential. That is one way we can tell people um, what coaching is all about. Now sometimes I also have a misconception, not I have a misconception, people have a misconception, right? That okay, I'm now being coached by you, right? Maybe tell me what to do. That is one misconception. It's like, oh, coaches are here to tell me what to do. Now that's the role of a mentor. And mentors, assuming that we assume that mentors have many more years of experience than the mentee, and the mentor is there to share. Like, I've walked the path, right? So I'm going to tell you 3 tips on how you should, navigate your way. Now go back and try these 3 tips. Tell me how it is. So that's how mentors may approach an issue. Now coaches approach it in a very different way. So like I say, the process is different, the approach is different. The coaches would tell, maybe they'll throw back, you ask a question, they'll ask you back with another question. So what do you think? How you gonna set, like how you gonna overcome it? You have a problem, right? I don't have the answers. You have the answers. It's about ownership. At the end of the day, coaching is about giving the person back the ownership. It's not my life, it's your life, right? It's not my career, it's your career, so you do something about it. And then after that, you will swing to another point. So since the coach is not telling me anything that I want to hear, then why am I, why do I need this coach, right? And then it will swing to the other way. People will think that, okay, so I expect my coach to tell me what to do, and he's not going to tell me anything. So what for do I need a coach then? They will swing to the other way, and that's where you need to people need to realize that having ownership of your life and of your career and of your issue, anything, right, or your project, will is more powerful, than having people to tell you what to do. Now, when you feel that you own something, right? Would you take better care of it? You would, right? Like let's say if this phone is mine, I'll make sure I'll not drop it. Okay, I'll make sure that I'll clean it, I'll sanitize it very well. But if it's not mine, maybe I borrowed from Mavis for a while, right? I wouldn't think of like, oh, I must do 3 things about it before returning back to her. I'll probably just use it. Oh, okay, give it back to Mavis. If that's her phone, not mine. So it's the same way as you approach, if you own a phone and you take care of it so much, right? What about your life, right? If you felt that you have ownership over it, right? Wouldn't you do even more? You put in more passion, more eagerness, more energy into achieving what you want to do. Now, sometimes people, um, that's why coaches are more powerful. If you grow up, right, you feel that if people tell me to do something, the most likely you won't do it. Why?
Yes.
Because you don't own it. People tell you that project is not yours. The mop, the sweeping the floor is not yours. You don't feel like you own it. So you people tell you, I must do it, okay, or you just do it half-heartedly. So coaching is really about putting that ownership or giving it back to the person, that owner, and
Mm,
that's why it's more powerful. Yeah, that's
mm.
why it's more transformative for that person. Yes.
Wow, that's a really good and real sharing. So now, Sharon, right? Maybe we deep dive another level. If you don't mind, perhaps can you share with us, in what ways do you think is a good way that people can be exposed to coaching then? In which channel, or you know how can people reach out to coaching in a more accessible way?
So, just want to clarify your question. So, do you mean in like how do coaches approach people, or how can people, find out more? So, because that is a very coming from very different angle. Um,
Mm.
yeah. So, which one are you looking at?
It is more towards how can people approach coaches.
Ah, okay. Uh, that's a very interesting question, which I have not actually thought about it before. But one thing that I can think of is really about um, honest conversations with people. Now, why I say that is because when you talk to coaches versus talking to your friends, there's a slight difference, right?
Mm.
Coaches tend to be more empathetic. They tend to listen more, and they tend to not give you so much advice. Yeah. So, what I think people need to realize is the approach is different, and that's where you can't reach out except to have honest conversations with people, to let people know that you're actually you do care, and not only do you care, but you have a process or a to help the person.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Great. So you mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Sharon, that you are actually saying that, having between having a conversations with your friends, your peers versus having with a professional coach, okay, that makes a lot of difference, right? Is that what
Mm,
you mean? Okay, that's
yes.
good. Yeah. So that is something that we truly recognize also. Now, how then can people, reach out to these coaches? Because I think one of the best place would be workplace. Do you agree that workplace or at work, if there's a coaching element that is embedded at work, what do you think is it actually a good welfare? I would say.
But it also depends on like, uh, are you talking about peer coaching, or are you talking about because because coaches, this the word coach, right, is very loosely used. So we
Mm,
can have a peer coach, right, but actually they are not using any particular process to coach the person, but it's just like listening. I'm trying to encourage you, I'm trying to help you, and then it's already termed as peer coach already. So um, and also some people may assume that as a boss you can also coach your employee. That's also like, I mean, people may not be comfortable, so it really depends. I mean, back to your question, is it depends on what is how you approach it. Do you mean peer coach? Do you mean supervisor coaching? Now that's another different level, and sometimes it may be awkward and uncomfortable. Or are you talking about coaches from external, you know, outside of the organization, being invited in to coach? And then, do you mean on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis? Yeah, because the dynamics with a peer coach is different from supervisor coaching, as well as inviting external coaches into the organization. So which one are you talking about?
Mm. So, previous episodes we have been talking about coaching culture within the organization.
Mm,
How internal coaches, HRs, some of them or even other roles are leadership roles, probably. Okay,
mm,
and mostly leadership roles, they take on coaching techniques to help to bring
yeah,
and develop their team members, right? And
yes,
so, in that perspective, let's say for as an individual, okay,
mm,
not taking leadership role as or any other roles or internal coach, but would you think that because we have spent so much time at work, that's why if let's say we want to cultivate that coaching mindsets, then actually introducing coaching element within the organization is also a helpful way.
definitely, definitely. I think whether is it you introduce at a peer level or at a supervisor level, I think everyone can benefit mostly in terms of the skill sets that that comes with learning how to coach or learning to become a coachee yourself, like what it takes. I think it all helps. Um, Coming from a point like let's say you introduce coaching culture into the organization, everyone learns how to do goal setting or how to help someone to set better goals. I mean that's helpful, right? And then
Mm,
if you're being trained to ask questions. Now, question is not just about any type of questions, but really essential questions that could get the person from point A to point B. Now that is a technique, right? That is a very niche skill set that uh, I felt that only at coaching, you get to learn. It's not just about asking random questions, but really asking targeted questions. Now, if the whole organization is able to learn one thing or two about questioning techniques, right, that would also help the individuals in the sense that, sometimes we can talk about a lot of things, but I just ask you one question and you will taken aback and you will go back and think about it for the entire night. Now, that's something that we want. Not saying that to disrupt your sleep or whatever. I don't mean that way, but it's a question that is so mind blowing, so transformative that you actually spend that entire night to think about it. That is something very powerful to an individual because I've received um, questions from coaches that help evaluate, to re-strategize. And these are questions that, if you introduced it within an organization, uh, people would benefit, whether is it the one coaching or the one receiving the coaching, it will benefit. So in terms of questioning, in terms of even building relationships as well, coaching is a way, like I mentioned earlier, is a way to foster relationships with people. Now, if you are able to ask good questions, it means that you're actually listening to the person, right? And understanding. If not, you wouldn't ask the correct questions. And that is a way to, foster team dynamic and relationships. And I think that's very important in the workplace as well.
right. Now, Sharon, earlier you mentioned, in the workplace, and you were saying introducing external coach.
Mm,
Right. So
yes.
actually, is it good to have external coach within the organization, or is it actually best for employers to train, whoever leadership role or HR to become internal coach? Actually, there's a debate going around. What are
Really,
your thoughts?
I think
Yeah.
it really depends because um, I mean, coming from an individual preference, I wouldn't want my superior to be my coach. That's
Mm,
personal preference. Uh, so if I'll prefer an external coach. Uh, but it really depends on individual preference because I think I also heard of a friend who said that he prefers someone from the organization because only then would he understand what's going on, the nitty gritty culture details, that only the coach based within the company would know. But for myself, right, I'll prefer external. That's
mm,
a matter of preference because I find that certain things you are not because one of the one of the requirement of coaching is you are able to freely share your vulnerabilities, your sometimes it's not always about positive, right? You can share some of your fears, your anxieties, and it depends on your relationship with your superior. But if you are not at that level, right, it would be quite awkward to say that, actually in this project I also fear about this, I'm anxious about that, I'm stressed about this, to your own superior. That would be very awkward, especially if sometimes you need to portray, like, not say faking it, but you need to show your certain professionalism in the way you conduct and things like that. So open conversations with your superior, who is also your coach, may be an issue. But of
Mm.
course, it also depends on what kind of coaching issues that we are talking with. If it's just a simple, like a work intervention, okay, you're not doing certain things right, I'm coaching you to do it uh, better, to achieve better results, and that is still okay. But if we will talk about like other things, like developing the person's potential in terms of leadership, having a lot of like reflections, having to retrospect, right, and look back, sometimes all the way to your childhood and all that, right, that is another different level of coaching already. So maybe within internal, there are certain coaching issues and projects that we can undertake within the organization. But sometimes if you want to go much further, like retrospection, looking at leadership potential, need to think back about your past, your childhood, and things like that, maybe external would be better. So it depends on which area we're looking at.
Mm. Very good for sharing, your perspective of the importance of an external coach. Okay, maybe I share a little bit context.
Mm,
Because nowadays organizations are being cost effective. That's why
mm,
sometimes most of the time, they are looking at ways on how to develop their internal staff to become their
mm,
internal coach. So it need not be, I think I've seen some organizations, what they did was they actually, in different leaders in different roles and departments, they become like an internal coach, right?
uh,
And they coach the person, but the person is not under him.
uh,
Yeah. So that is where the internal coach comes in. But then
mm,
it's still inside the work environment. That's why my question to you, right? If it's a work
mm,
under work environment, okay, and knowing that this internal coach is not a superior, let's say they are not superior, what's your comfortability in that area then?
what's my sorry? I can't hear the last sentence.
Okay, my last sentence is that how comfortable are you? If like okay, let's say this internal coach is not a superior, do how comfortable will you be with him or her?
And what am I being coached on?
It can be anything, it can be life, it can be development, it can be your own professional development. So it's, coaching has no specific topic until the
Yeah.
coachee actually has a specific topic. So let's say in that case, okay,
Mm.
regardless of the topic, okay, and how comfortable will you, because it's still in the work context, you still see this internal coach at the workplace?
Mm. I
Or do you
think
think a mixture will be
there
better?
shouldn't be any issue. Like I say, sometimes it also depends because like your coach is your close friend with your boss, then that is another issue, because you might think that, okay, I know in coaching agreement we are supposed to keep everything private and confidential, but sometimes if you know the person, you kind of like talk and like people want to find out, hey, how's my employee doing, under you for coaching, is he doing okay? And people will want to find out more. And depends on individuals. If you feel that you are uncomfortable, having that possibility of you being the lunch topic of lunch conversation, then okay. But for me, I don't think that is much of an issue. It's from another department. Yeah,
Mm. Okay. So now, since Sharon, can we touch on, the right fit of a coach? Because
mm,
if let's say coaching, okay, is a fostering of relationship between you and a coach.
yeah,
So you would want to find a good coach, right? Or a good
yeah,
fit of a coach. So based on yourself, I mean, this is your perspectives. Okay, but actually it can form some sort of thoughts for people out here, our listeners, because many a times people will ask, how do you define a good coach, or how do you actually find the right fit with a list of coaches I gone through, know which one to choose? Is there any
That's a very
advice or tips?
question. When I undergo the coaching program, we choose our own coach. So there will be a lineup of coaches. They will have their coach spiel. So they will say that certain things, when they share, right, does it resonate with you first of all?
Mm,
Because I mean, after all, we are different individuals with different personalities and background. So when the coach does his or her spiel, you'll be able to tell where if that's the right fit. You know, sometimes for me, because I'm not very energetic kind, so I prefer a coach who is more uh, uh, energetic. You know, the way he talk or the way she talk, right, is like at least one volume, 1 decibel higher than me. While some people might prefer more zen, more calm. So when the person give the spiel or the talk, right, you know, you'll be able to sense the energy level. Is it someone comfortable? Now, some people who find people who talk a bit too loud, a bit overbearing, and they won't like, right? So from the way they speak, are you comfortable with this person? Is, you know, and also the things that she talk about, does it resonate in you? The values. Sometimes she'll say that, oh, the coach will say that I believe in this. I believe that I can help you. And if you feel that whatever that he or she said about what, like sort of like the promises, if you think that it resonate with you, if you think that you would benefit, right? Then it's really about, you know, is asking you the same question. How do you know when you are going to employ an employee, right? How do you know it's the right fit?
mm,
It's also basing that it's not scientific. I mean, it's not about like, oh, you need to do a certain test. Sometimes it's really about speaking to the person and you tell that, hey, you know, I'm comfortable with you, first of all. It must be comfortable must be the first starting point. And then you talk
mm,
about certain things that the coach can offer and you think that it helps you, then this tool I think could be a great starting point to try out. Why not with the coach?
mm. So do you think, your peers would have that mentality or attitude of, why not, why not try coaching?
It's my friends or my peers. The
Mm,
first thing that deter them, right, is always the cost.
okay.
It's like it doesn't justify like, you know, depend on which program that you sign up for. It could be like maybe hundreds to a few $1,000s. Yeah, so it's really about like, um, I think the issue is really about because it's not so like you don't see. You know, when I say I'm being undergo changes, right? I've been coached. Um, 5 years ago and 5 years now, you still see me like, I'm still the same person. If only you would know internally that you have changed or have been transformed. So it's like if, for example, I pay, for example, $1,000, okay, $1,000 to buy something, I can see that result immediately. The $1,000 product is in my hand. But if I pay, for example, $1,000 for coaching, right, and I undergo maybe a month or so of um, like the program, 1 month later you come out, right, people will still say, hey, you are still you. And then they were like, oh, did I really change? Yeah, I did transform, but people don't see the difference. But you need to realize that coaching is a process that may take, you know, it is ongoing. Yeah, and it's not like today you are blue, tomorrow after coaching you become orange, like a significant difference, you see. So when people don't see that, right, as a concrete result, that is one that may deter them. So costing and not being able to see immediate concrete results is one, like, you know, my friends of mine may not be so open to coaching.
I see. Yeah, I think that's the most common factor that deter them away. It's all about the monetary factor, right? Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Sharon. That we actually gain a lot. Last bit, before we wrap it up, you use a lot of that transformation, and we haven't
Mm,
here actually, how much change and what kind of changes have you undergo actually, basically, since the start where you've been first introduced until today as you apply coaching in your own life, your own career. What are those transformations? Maybe just cite a few of the key transformations you've noticed.
mm. Like I felt that I'm able to, like I said, having the discipline to follow through. So if like let's say between like a person who has undergo coaching and versus four other people, right, going for the same, objective or milestones, you'll see that the one being coached is more likely to follow through and eventually reach. So I felt that for myself, one area of transformation is being able to reach uh, or to first of all be ambitious to reach a higher goal, and second of all is to actually reach the goal.
Hmm. I see. So you have experienced that part of transformation, right?
Yeah, that stretch. First of all, is that stretch, and then actually being able to reach there.
Hmm.
That is very
So
powerful.
okay, that's very good because when you say it's very powerful from the stretch of stretching you, the discipline and
Mm,
and all the other things, right? So is it fair that people, because I do actually feel like honestly, people are taking that coaching is expensive, one thing, and the other side of it is that people will always try their ways of getting free coaching. Do you think it's fair to have such an extent?
mm, free coaching is like asking someone to design something for you for free. Like coaches actually do go through that process. They pay. Like, do you go to the doctor and ask for free consultation? No, right? You pay because you know that they have undergone certain training, they have certain expertise, and you respect them, and you pay them because you respect their expertise. Now, that is the same thing that we should want for coaches as well, because we know that you guys have undergone a rigorous process to be where you are today with that certification or whatever that you have. That's why we are paying you for your expertise.
Hmm. So am I right that you also do think that actually coaching is a profession?
Of course, but there's also another group of people who call themselves coaches without going through the
Mm.
necessary courses and all that. So we do have that as well, like, and that's where people might be like feeling a bit uh cheated by this group of people, and that's also adding to that that misconception about coaches in general, just because they see a few bad examples. So we have a long way to go.
Yeah, I believe so, Sharon. You and I, we all know coaching, right? And that's why, as an individual yourself who have been through coaching, and you know that those coaches been self-proclaimed themselves as coaches, and we have that. There's an increase of 30 to 40% of such during COVID. Okay, thank you, so much, Sharon, for sharing with us. And I hope people out there, every one of you, we hope you have get an understanding of what is coaching is, and coaching is a profession. And whatsoever that we have explained that people has thought that coaching is very expensive. But actually, in fact, coaching is not that expensive after all, because there are still coaches out there who wants to make an impact to people. And it's not something like it's a bonus or good to have, in your development kind of way. But it's actually something that if you're willing to develop yourself in L&D, your learning and development, then all the more coaching is able to help to push you, and coaches be an accountable factor to you. right? Because if you don't have an accountability and you yourself is accountable to yourself, ultimately it will fall through some cracks. That is why resolutions don't get fulfilled unless you promise that, oh, I'm not going to have such and such, but will you punish yourself if you don't fulfill that, right? Now, to all who has been so attentive in listening to us, I would like to invite everyone, out here. Okay, I'd like to invite everyone here to join us at our upcoming focus group session regarding Happy Me Career. Now, this focus group, as I shared to Sharon, is actually a discussion session to really understand how we can engage you in your coaching lifestyles through this Happy Me Career platform that we have carefully curated for the last 2 years, because we are gathering feedbacks from the ground, from people who have used it, business leaders, business owners, normal average person like you and me who have gone through coaching. And we hear them like, how to better make that engagement even more engaging. So whoever interested, please indicate in the comment box and I will follow up with you, closely to invite you for such a session. Now, these sessions is happening on the 27th and on the 20th and on the 27th of March on a Saturday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. in Singapore. Now, if you are a foreigner listening in, don't rest assured we're having a Zoom session. But let me know who is interested. Please indicate in the box. Now, stay tuned in episode number 19. And once again, I'd like to thank every one of you listening out there. Thank you, Sharon, for, having to take your 1 hour of your time to share these nuggets of your tips, of your experience. Okay.
Happy to be
So,
here.
thank you so much, Sharon. Take care, everyone. You stay safe. Good night. Okay, bye-bye. I'll see you. Stay tuned for episode 19.